Let me talk a little bit about advocacy and the role that Canteen has played in advocacy and what that means. So one of the things that we have successfully advocated for is for the government to fund clinical trials.
Until recently, a lot of young Australians have just been unable to access local clinical trials. The research shows, and it can't be emphasised enough, that participating in clinical trials improves survival, and so it is critical that young people have access to the clinical trials that they need.
I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, cancer of the lymphatic system, in 2008. From around 2012 onwards, things got pretty bad. Probably should have died probably 3 or 4 times, if I'm being honest. It reached the point where I ran out of curative options in Australia and required a clinical trial that was only available in the United States. I was very much in a privileged position, though, that I had a network of family and friends and was able to wrangle up enough support that although we did end up needing to take out a second mortgage on the house, it wasn't as large as it could have been, and I was able to go over and get the trial. But as part of that, I became involved in Canteen's clinical trial initiative. I was very fortunate enough to play, and I'm not even going to front, it was a very small part. We have some fantastic staff and advocates at Canteen that do so much work behind the scenes to get in the ears of important people and government to get these things over the line. But I was able to play a part in advocating for clinical trials in Australia and the establishment of a funding that Canteen was able to administer and start giving out to prospective clinical trials, so we could bring those to Australia and we could give young people living with cancer access to them, so they didn't have to crowd funds, they didn't have to rely on family and friends.
So off the back of that advocacy, we were successful in winning $5 million of funding that we now use to fund clinical trials in brain tumours, sarcoma, leukemia, and a genomic trial. Really important cancers to fund trials in. They are nasty cancers, the survival rates are lower, so we must have trials in those types of cancers. Now, we haven't just stopped our advocacy within Australia. Overseas, countries want to hear about the work we do here, and they want to hear about it because they don't have an initiative like the Youth Cancer Services or the clinical trials initiatives for adolescent young adults. So I've spoken in recent years to Canada, and ultimately that led to Canada adopting our Australian Youth Cancer Framework. And then more recently, I've spoken with Japan, talking about the work we've done here to change the treatment and support landscape for young cancer patients in Australia. The Pharmaceutical Benefit Scheme provides patients across Australia with access to pharmaceuticals at little or no cost. Now, when that comes to cancer, that's a really big deal. And it's a really big deal because we know of patients who aren't eligible for a particular pharmaceutical, but it might be suited to treating their cancer type. So one of the bits of advocacy that we will be doing is around how do we change the Pharmaceutical Benefit Scheme so it's much more geared towards ensuring that people who have the right genetic markers in terms of their cancer can get access to the pharmaceuticals that will target those particular markers in that cancer.